Hello again, I'm Bob Colt, and we're continuing our conversation in Charlotte Public Schools. Julie Kimmer is with me, the Vice President of the Board of Education. Julie, you've been around here and engaged in education for a long time in Charlotte, haven't you?
Many years.
Yeah, so what have you learned? And because it's so difficult to be on the Board of Education, why are you still doing it?
Oh, sometimes I ask myself that. Well, I've learned that since my son was in, he's 23, many years, I've done lots of different roles and learned lots of different things, from being PTO mother to school board vice president. Because it's important to me is why I'm still here and why I'm still participating. It's sometimes it is challenging and something you don't want to really do, but it's very important to me and always has been. So,
what sort of issues would the Board of Education be facing right now? Because there are a lot of different issues that sometimes don't filter down to parents at home, but you've got a lot of things on your plate, including financial issues and budget issues and operating issues. Talk a little bit about what's on your plate on the board.
Well, there always are many different issues. The financial issues are always present. It's interesting that they've set challenges. When I talk about them, I mean the legislature have set challenges for us to meet to gain our financial goals anymore, which we really welcome challenges. Sometimes we wish the income as a result of was a little more generous, but I mean it makes obviously operating and making programs easier to do. But so meeting those goals and our educational goals certainly is one of our biggest priorities. The challenges with the social media has been interesting. That changes by day and it changes so often. The students are ahead of us. So those policies to meet those type of social medias and how they handle it and how we handle it when they work on it is a big challenge that's new.
How do you feel now? And I say feel meaning really your thoughtful perspective of looking at a state of Michigan that's recording $1 billion surplus, and some people are asking why we aren't investing more in education.
Well, I'm a proponent clearly of the state, I think, as in most people are, and watching our state recover or do really well, I'm very happy about that. I would love to see some of it come toward education. I'm not really sure that's the plan, and I think if their intention is to give more of it to education, setting higher goals, making us achieve those goals to get that money, that's fine. Certainly I'd like to see some of it added to education.
Sure.
But I don't know that is. But overall for the state, I'm happy. Obviously whatever's good for the state is good for all of us.
And as a board member, what are you looking at the real needs where a school district needs to invest in right now? Obviously technology is constantly changing.
It is. We as a district have recognized that because we did have many years of difficult financial years in the state of Michigan, that we've seen a change in some of our population, that the kids, especially the younger kids, are more needy than they ever have been. And it would be nice if we had younger, earlier programs to meet some of those needs. Some of the kids are coming in very shortfallen of where they really would have started out, say, 15 years ago.
Yeah. And so the kids have changed and their circumstance has changed. Mm-hmm. And so how do you adapt? I mean, as a leader in the school district, what can you possibly do to help those parents and those kids really adapt to current circumstances?
Well, that's one of the things that we definitely are struggling with. It's something that our teachers and our paraprofessionals and all of our staff have recognized about our students, and so it's our job as a board to recognize the changes in our community and to support what our teachers and all of our staff see that those students' needs are, whether it be more of a medical coverage, whether it be more intense early on education, whether it be lunches packed for the weekend.
Yeah.
Whatever that might be, we need to listen to what our staff is telling us about.
Well, and you're very fortunate to have a great, talented group of teachers and staff people here in Charlotte.
Oh, absolutely, very dedicated. Very dedicated. I mean, some of these people have been around here for a long time and are still hanging in because they're dedicated, and some are very new and excited to, get going and with new programs. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I stay as well. I mean, many of these people are close friends.
Yeah, and so with all of your contacts and friends in the school district, What do you hear them say? What do they say about Charlotte? What do you want them to say and tell others?
Wow. I think they're proud to live here.
Yeah.
Most of them are very proud Oreos. There's times they get really frustrated, and they certainly let us know when they're not happy with things that we've done or decisions we've made, and I try to listen to them. We all try to listen to them loud and clear, and make changes that are necessary. That,
Yeah.
because their interests are the best interests of our students at heart as well.
You know, you have to focus a lot of attention on facilities, and there has been a very concerted effort to make sure all of the school buildings and classrooms and everything are kept up to date. That's got to be something that really occupies a lot of board interest and time.
It does. I've been on our facilities committee since I've been on the board almost 10 years. It's something that's near and dear to my heart because it's something I do as part of my professional living. It definitely does. Our community has let us know loud and clear. They expect us to care for these facilities, take care of these facilities. They've let us know that by supporting our bond issue, but they expect us to use those monies wisely in a way that will make what we do have last longer.
Are we keeping up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're even on a roofing schedule, have a bus replacement schedule.
Yeah.
We're keeping up because our community is supporting us to keep up.
Talk a little bit about the challenges of transportation, because it's not something that's necessarily required to educate children, but in a great way it is, because you got to get them to school, and you've got a pretty big school district.
Yeah, that's interesting. We had a conversation at the intermediate school level probably about 2 years ago with our legislatures that pointed out to us that we really don't need to transport kids. That would save us a tremendous amount of money. But who does that really hurt? That hurts your working parents who are already gone to work or have to be there by that time. It doesn't hurt the person who may have a little bit more financial stability and can stay home to transport their kids. Do you leave those kindergartners to transport themselves? It really, to me, it's a second necessity we have besides educating our children.
Yeah, it's a cost.
Oh, it's a tremendous cost.
It's a tremendous cost, and it is kind of an investment of time and focus away from actual classroom work, but critical for the future of the school district. And you're compared by the transportation facilities that you offer.
Mm-hmm. I just, on the way over here, watched two very small children. We've had to widen our district in the in the last few years, like most schools have, and watched two small children that I know are probably 3/4 of a mile from the closest elementary school to their home. And we used to be able to transport all of them. These kids have sidewalks, they're in town, but early in the morning on a cold day, that's a difficult walk to make. So.
Yeah, so you consider that you have to make accommodations and do everything you possibly can. And I think it's one of the things that sets Charlotte apart from other school districts. And you have a lot of things here in Charlotte that you can proudly promote that other districts don't have.
Yeah, well, our arts program certainly has been successful for many years and has been continued to grow. Our theater program as well has done. Our band program's always been outstanding and really been a point of pride. Our FFA program is one of the oldest in the state. We have a lot of things to be proud of.
So how do you then focus on what most people make judgments on, student achievement? What can you possibly do as a board member to make sure that students are achieving higher goals every year?
The most frustrating thing for me about student achievement is that the requirements change so continuously. I mean, they never are. If they were just set one way for an extended period of time, they would be so much easier to work on than to. And not that they shouldn't be stringent, and not that they shouldn't be the same around the state, or maybe even the same in the entire country. I don't have a problem with that, but it's just don't continuously change them.
Yeah.
But that is actually our business, is educate students. So that is certainly the thing that we as a board probably focus on the most, that and the safety of the students that we have in our district.
Well, let's talk a little bit about safety. I mean, you actually have officers in schools, and other districts do as well. But I think one of the things that makes Charlotte unique is that parents really feel that their kids are safe in school, don't they?
I always did, definitely, you know, and I mean, I still have one in the high school and
Yeah.
definitely do. With the new bond project, we certainly tried to accommodate as many different new safety procedures as we have. Our building and grounds people have painstakingly gone over what will be safety procedures. We run them on a regular basis. We do all of those as much as, but I'm sure, you know, unfortunately many schools have, and it's, some of those challenges are just
Yeah.
scary to meet.
Yeah, and the whole environment and thought about safety has changed with some of the tragedies that have happened throughout the nation. So you have to think a little differently.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, not that we didn't always take what students say seriously, but once in a while somebody will say something in a classroom and even all their classmates, you know, their ears will perk up and somebody's going to report them right away, and the conversation you have to have with that student that, you know, 10 years ago you might have said that and probably nobody'd turn around, but you say something like that now, even just remotely threatening.
Yeah.
And you know, their classmates, it scares them to death. So certainly does us too.
So people have to be hypersensitive,
Yeah, unfortunately.
and you have to listen to what's going on with young people, and it becomes really difficult to diagnose and address areas of concern, but you seem to have done it pretty well here.
Yeah, I think as a board, we took a stand several years ago to be pretty stringent and to be very strict about enforcing some of our policies. And we've oftentimes had somebody come for an expulsion or a hearing situation and be quite surprised that, you know, the rules are what they are, and we, short of a real extenuating circumstances, we just don't make an exception. They have to be applied, and I think the students know that. There isn't one of them that doesn't come to us and we say to them, "Did you know this? Did your teacher say this to you every year that you've been here?" Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunately why we're sitting here.
And it would be tough to expel a kid from school or suspend them because they're not really learning if they're not here.
Oh yeah. I mean, you think as much about when they leave what's going to happen to them as
Yeah.
when they were here.
Yeah. And so as a school board member, talk a little bit about how the board's getting along, because you all have to work together to make change and to address issues. How's it going?
Well, it's always a very unique relationship, though. I think with the 7 people that end up being there, I don't know if it's ironically or surprisingly, you end up really understanding each other very well, whether you agree or don't agree on certain things or everything. You do learn to understand each other really well. I mean, I don't really ever wonder what their commitment or their reason for what they're doing is, because I know why they're there for the same reason I am. But sometimes we don't agree. We get along very, very well, but I mean, that's the challenges of having a board. That's why you have a board,
Yeah.
to make the best decisions with the
Yeah.
group.
And so you're able to have sometimes very extended conversations,
Sure.
but actually all of those are for public good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. That's the whole point of having a board. If one person could make the best decision on their own, that's all you need.
Yeah.
But you really do need those different voices, different points of view.
And people board members in Charlotte have a variety of experiences they bring to the table, don't they?
And that's really best. I mean,
Yeah.
you need somebody with some historical knowledge, you need somebody who's got kids in school, you need somebody from every side of that fence that really comes to the best decision. Because we all look at it from our point of view, from our wealth of knowledge. So.
Talk a little bit about, it's probably a struggle for any school district and certainly a board to keep up with all the rapid changes in technology. But you've got to make the investment to be as competitive with other districts as it is just to, kids embrace this new technology and want and absorb the latest, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, when we did one of the first things we did with the bond money and the technology portion of that, and our superintendent really led us to that, was purchasing iPads for each individual student. We really struggled with that.
Yeah.
But is that the reality of what the student's going to do? If you're in a junior college or a college setting, that's what they're going to sit there and do. That is what they're probably going to do at their house. I mean, is that the way they're going to learn in the future? Is that the best method, or do we invest a lot of money in the classroom technology? We really struggled with that, but so far this seems to be pretty successful.
Yeah, but you have to worry that the technology changes so quickly.
Well, because when you invest in something like that, it's like building a building. You're going to take care of it forever. So
Yeah.
you have to think ahead about at the expense of it.
Well, so what else are you thinking about? You have a lot of different educational programs that probably come to the board for presentation and make their case. There's a lot to be proud of that you've seen, I'm sure.
Our high school has done some real innovative things as of lately. We're going to be offering some intense arts programs to highlight some of the really outstanding ones we already have. So our high school staff has really worked on that, and it will actually be like an additional certification to your, or certification with your degree. They also are doing some much more, almost like a vocational and zoology type of classes for somebody that wants to take that direction, to make your high school career really as valuable, as worthwhile as it can be. We're talking about doing some classes with Ferris College. We're already doing with LCC, so.
Well, that's great. So you're making that transition to the next level of education easy, and kind of breaking any barriers so kids can move on. Are kids, when they graduate from Charlotte High School, or do you think that they're qualified for the next level?
We've looked at those scores in the past.
Yeah.
We've done fairly well. Our kids, as far as in higher education, have they made it very far? We've done fairly well. I'm quite sure, though, that many of these changes, where they're much more either vocationally based or some of the additional classes, they've added what they call 11th grade seminar. So you spend an intensive amount of time working on understanding the ACT, filling out college applications, purviewing, Central, all kinds of different things, will make them much more ready than they even are today.
Evaluation's important, but boy, you spend a lot of time on the testing, don't you?
Oh, yeah. It seems like we figure out the test and then work backwards, as opposed to figure out the curriculum and then figure out the test sometimes. It kind of seems like it might be easier to do the other way, but that's just...
Well, as an experienced school board member, what's your message to the state legislature that does pass laws and funding and things like that have a direct effect on what the Board of Education has to do in a local school district?
I have no problem with the challenges they set for us and the excellence they require from us. In some ways, I think they certainly try to really listen and help us when they set those. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we speak with our legislators all the time. We just need to stop moving the mark, or pick a curriculum that doesn't change every 2 or 3 years, that makes it, because that's, by the time you equate changing the curriculum down to a teacher's level, that's a huge amount of work for them to go through for an entire year's worth of work. And then they aren't very proficient once you change it for a while teaching it. It really needs to stay standard for at least a period of time.
Is there do you have any better feeling about the idea of a core curriculum and what's been passed?
And see, to me, that would be excellent. I mean, they're even talking about, the federal versus what we have now at the state, that meeting to meet. That's fine. Again, that would be great, as long as it doesn't change.
Yeah.
I mean, and it would be. If there is one best curriculum, that is the one we should all use, no matter what state, no matter what school district. But it should be something that's, really, really well thought out, and then doesn't necessarily change for an extended period of time, so that educators can become proficient at it before it's changed again.
The goal line keeps moving farther.
Yeah, it just makes it really difficult to know what to educate the children with, what the next test is going to be.
Yeah. So thinking about 2014, what kind of goals or objectives are you thinking about at the board level that you'd really want to see the Charlotte Public Schools achieve?
Most of our goals for this next year certainly are educational levels. We were identified as a focus school, and we are making great progress of becoming not a focus school any longer. So, our goals certainly are to close. We were identified because of the gap between some of our learning students. So closing that gap, and then educational goals for this next year certainly are what we are focused on.
Yeah, and we've talked to other folks before. You also have some behavior expectations for both young people and their parents, don't you?
Yeah, at the elementary school, they've set even up some classroom evenings with the parents as well as the kids, and trying to support them, to helping their child do their homework. And some of the math is often work that parents haven't done in many, many years, and it's challenging for them to do with their kids as well. And then at the high school, they've set some goals, as well as some, he's tried to give some achievement, what do I want to say, some carrots to dangle out there to, you know, to make the kids want to achieve a better goal than they are currently, so.
Parental involvement is critical to the education of young people, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, and sometimes that's very challenging, because the kids that you need the parents' involvement from the most are the ones that you have the hardest time.
Yeah. Well, Julie, thank you very much for sharing information with us today, and talking to everybody who may look in and share information about the Board of Education, what's going on in Charlotte Public Schools.
Well, thank you, Brian.
I'm Bob Colt, and we will continue our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools.